I'm going to do that, yeah. I'll do that now. But do you all know each other? Do you want to take this a couple of minutes just to... Yeah. Hi. Yeah. And I think you can arrange, so we've got you guys are 4? Yes. And then again, so I'm going to go 1, 1, 1, no, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, run through. And at the very end, I'll invite you to sort of consider your closing remarks, and then you can nominate a spokesperson. But if you look like you're all having a chat and go, that'd be good. All right, I'm going to get these guys to move forward. Good to see you. Yeah. Sorry.
You're a PhD researcher?
Okay, come to the front a bit more, and for prosperity you'll be recorded because you'll be on the TV screen. They can see you. You can say hi through that camera. So come on, come down, come on. I'm looking at you two. You're coming. Brilliant. Okay. And you guys, I can see you around the corner. Okay. Okay, we'll make a start. Good afternoon, everybody in the room, and welcome online. Good morning, good evening. Thanks for joining us. You're joining today. The thematic day is Knowledge, Innovation and Technology. And this particular event is a young professionals debate. So I'll explain a little bit more about the roles and rules shortly. My name is Martin Schuler from Arup. We're a consulting engineering company, and it's a huge pleasure to be here today. I'm just going to be moderating the two groups here. We'll be speaking for and against the motion, and making sure that everybody is pleasant to each other. Can I welcome everybody in the audience? And you've got a role to play too. You'll be thinking of some questions, but what I want to do to start with, I'm going to do a quick scientific poll, which involves you putting your hand up or not. I'm also going to ask those online if you can indicate with a thumbs up or a thumbs down in the chat, if you're able to, because this starts with a motion. So it's effectively a provocation, and a provocation for the debate is we have all the innovations and technology we need to meet the UN SDGs and NDCs relating to water. We just need to take them to scale. So I'll give you a moment or two to think about that, and whether you agree with that or disagree with that, you're going to let me know by a show of hands if you agree. And if you disagree, likewise, I'm going to ask you to put your hands up too. So if you're online, likewise, thumbs up, thumbs down, if you agree or disagree. What we'll do at the end, we'll check if the panel has been able to change your mind through the power of debate. So let me just start by just really sort of framing the debate and welcoming our panel. So effectively the young leaders of the future. So welcome. I'm going to ask you to individually just quickly run through and introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and which organisations you work for. But before we do that, really, it's just to kind of unpack a little bit about the provocation. And I'll say it again, we have all the innovation and technology we need to meet the UN SDGs and NDCs related to water. We just need to take it to scale. So we've got all that knowledge. We just need to get on with it, yeah? So that's provocation. So I'm going to invite the audience, not you guys, I know how you're going to vote, but I'm going to invite the audience first. If you agree with that motion, just put your hand up really high. So I'm going to do a bit of counting. Now, that's not really high. Just like pretend you're back at school, yeah? Really high, yeah? And you know the answer. Some people changed their mind when I said that, right? Okay, I think I've got 6 hands up, yeah? Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's do that. Who disagrees with the motion? Oh, you don't get to vote. We'll come to you later. 1, 2. I'm pretty sure people are voting for 2 things, but we have half the number disagreeing. Okay, so that's what we've got ahead of us, really. So you've got to move the dial for those who are disagreeing with that motion. See if you can get some of those who are voting for the motion to vote against the motion. But first of all, I'd like to welcome our young professionals. And if you could quickly just run through, just name a little bit about yourself. Do you want to start, Manu?
I can start. So thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. My name is Manuel. I am 26 and thankful that counts as young. I am with Stockholm International Water Institute. I've graduated recently, so still very fresh. But of course have a decisive opinion on that matter, and I've worked before in business development, but also in other institutes. So I think I know a fair deal about innovation, or at least I've heard a bit about it, but I'm happy to discuss further.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Sofia. I am 19. I'm from Peru. I am part of the Innovation 30 campaign of UNICEF, and I work at an organization called Ollas Sostenibles. That is a project where we implement a 3-station system for food, water, and energy security that combines ancestral knowledge from indigenous techniques of agriculture with science and technological innovation for food security. And so, yeah, that's me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maha Zobi. I am a regional researcher at the International Water Management Institute. I'm not going to mention my name. My age, sorry. So, yeah, I have like almost a 15 plus years experience in water management, policy, governance. And I'm co-leading currently a regional initiative on fragility to resilience in Central West Asia, North Africa, and MENA region.
Thank you. So that was team for the motion, yeah? And so team against, please.
Hello everyone, this is Shamim Ahmed from Bangladesh. I'm involved with the COP28 presidency youth delegation team. Besides, I'm also founder of a youth-led organization named Eco Network Global, working with the young people from Bangladesh and some South Asian countries on climate change and environmental issues.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I am Nate Matthews. I'm the CEO of the Global Resilience Partnership, and it's painfully obvious that I am not a young professional. I have more years of work experience than the age of some of the panelists. But I'm very happy to be here. And Global Resilience Partnership is a partnership of over 80 organizations working on scaling on the ground resilience investments, shaping knowledge, and engaging in policy. Thanks.
Thanks, Nate. We're just waiting for one other panelist who will be joining us shortly. So what I'm going to ask, so I should make it clear that we've asked our panelists to take a position. So it may not be their own personal position, and we'll find out later. Maybe at the end they'll reveal exactly what their real thoughts are. But for the purpose of the debate, they're taking a position either for and against. I'm just wondering, are you more comfortable? Would you like to speak here or sitting down? Because what I'm going to do is, you want to come up? Okay, fine. So what I'll do is I'll shift across, but I'm going to invite the first speaker from Team 4 to come up and give your views on the provocation.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I think it's not that much of a provocation, because I think it is clear that we have seen that the time for acting is now. I mean, we have heard many calls of action. We've seen the issues, we've seen the challenges. So I think there is always the notion that we need to wait for the next silver bullet, for the perfect sort of innovation, for the next new technology to really solve it, be it electric vehicles or hydrogen, that puts us forward and really helps us with dealing with these issues. But I think just from what I've seen in these few days that I've been here, and this is my first sort of real COP, I think the innovations are there. We just need to sort of put them put them to scale and really commit at this point. And I know that there might be the notion of this is not the perfect solution, this is not the perfect time, but I also want to say that perfect sometimes can be the enemy of good. And I think this is exactly what we're seeing here. So I think we really need this commitment and the finance also for the funding in place to show, okay, the innovations we have, be they in rainwater harvesting or in other solutions related to water, be it in water quality related measures, be it also in the areas that water touches upon and sort of a nexus approach. I think that we really need to, for one, put the governance frameworks in place, because we need the authorities to sort of shift to really empower the positions to finally put these things to scale, because I don't think it is the lacking innovations. I think we need to really move forward with sort of giving people the power to apply the innovations, to put them into practice, to finally see, okay, these are the impacts, this is the learnings, this is the doing of it, because that will ultimately allow us to really test these innovations and see also what works not, and also finally start working on solving issues and not just talking about them. And lastly, I also think there is a sort of divide between the global, national, and local. There's a disconnect there, and ultimately it does not work if we not start doing things. You can only get so scientific with innovations, with knowledge. But I think there is a great deal already been in the doing, in the sort of applications, in the sort of more practical knowledge that really needs to be translated or needs to be scaled up, because otherwise we'll just start, we'll never get out of this ivory tower with innovations that we sit in and sort of always will be pretending that we're actually dealing with the solutions because we have these new technologies, but if they're only applied in so many years, then the problems might have changed already, so we need to tackle the problems now.
Thank you so much. A round of applause, I think that's required. So thank you, audience, the interactive audience there. So thank you for that. It sounds like we've got all the ideas. Let's get on with it. I think, look, there's some advice there. So do we all agree with that? Let's find out. Let's find out. Up to the podium. Who's next? Nate. Yeah. Yes, please. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak at this. So I was proposed, my position here is supposed to be the motion hater. And I think that, hate's a strong word, but I do actually, personally, vehemently disagree with the motion. So I have huge problems with it. And I'd like to explain why, just in a couple minutes. So first, let's take a look at the question. So we have all the innovations and technology we need to meet the UN SDGs and NDCs relating to water. We just need to take them to scale. So our previous speaker, Emmanuel, mentioned about governance and things like that. Governance is a key component of allowing innovations to get to scale. We are, if we think about how off track we are with the SDGs right now. So I did a bit of checking. 18% of them are on track. 15% are going backwards. Actually, we're going backwards. We are so far away from where we need to get to. We've got 7 years left. Water SDGs are an absolute mess. We won't get into NDCs because they're quite specific, but they're way off track. 2.2 billion people lack safely measured drinking water. 3.5 billion people lack sanitation. 2 billion people lack safe hygiene, accessible hygiene. ODA commitments on water are actually decreasing. 32 of 153 countries that share a transboundary aquifer have no operational management arrangements. We need a 6-fold increase in some of these things to get where we're going. If we had the innovations and all they needed to do to get to scale, they would be there. I think we'd have them already. So what's blocking them? So I think there's a bunch of things that are blocking them. One is certainly the governance, but really it's the proof that's in the pudding here. Do we think that there's a bunch of people who are stopping innovation from going forward? But even that is a barrier to scale in itself. There's way too many vested interests. And I think also when we think about resilience, which is a space I work in, you've got these principles of resilience. Persist, adapt, transform. Persist is we don't want people or places to collapse in the face of shocks or stresses. Adaptation is a step to the left, a step to the right. But it's a transformation that really excites me. That's, the novel ways of stewarding our ecosystems. That's the novel ways of creating livelihoods. That's where innovation comes in. But we know from transformation science that taking action in a complex world, in a hyper-connected world, requires entire new ways of thinking. And a lot of the innovations that we see, they're wonderful, but they're stuck at seed level. They're stuck, they can't get to scale. If they could get to scale, then the private sector would be crowding in. We wouldn't have these backwards tracking of the SDGs. We wouldn't have ODA funding decreasing because they would see opportunity. They'd make the changes. They'd be easy wins. They'd have the answers. We clearly do not have the answers. So I think just in a highly dynamic and uncertain future, we need to address water challenges that are deeply intertwined with poverty, injustice, equity, especially gender and women, and at the same time trying to advance human well-being and water security. But this is a major, major challenge, and we're approaching it from business as usual. And what we need to do is approach it from a completely business unusual perspective. And that's why I completely disagree with the statement, because if we had the innovations, we'd certainly have progress on some of these NDCs or SDGs.
You even got a sort of polite round of applause from Team 4 there, so it was a sort of polite clapping of hands. So thank you very much. It was a very sort of, yeah, but well done there. Thank you very much for that, Nate. You know, we're off track, SDGs, business unusual, you know, so, and lots of numbers as well. So that's good, isn't it? So what do our audience think about the numbers? Are they swaying you one way or the other? So we'll find out shortly. So can I invite our next, the 4 team, please? Sophia to...
Yeah, thanks. Whatever. Well, as a doubtful believer to this motion, I want to start by saying that you miss all chances that you don't take. And that is the only thing that we should have in mind when even thinking about questioning giving innovations a try, especially in the context of the climate crisis. As the climate crisis disrupts agriculture, biodiversity, and water security, scientists and entrepreneurs are collaborating under strenuous conditions to get ahead of water's evolving challenges. And those are how to access it, distribute it, and use it efficiently, economically and sustainably. But to focus on these questions for innovation in water security, innovation should not only be supported, but put as a priority. And as the previous speaker mentioned, saying that we don't have yet the innovations that are ready to scale is not only not an accurate premise, but also a premise that disregards the work of those who have innovations that have already succeeded. And in this, I want to focus not only innovations that talk about things that are possible in the future, but innovations that have taken into consideration all of those practices that have ancestral stories. As someone that comes from an indigenous community, I can say that there are a lot of things that have been promoted by communities in terms of preserving water, such as harvesting water techniques in the Andes. But maybe the issue is not if those innovations are there, but who are the people sitting at the tables, thinking about the investment and thinking about these scales, that have forgotten that those ancestral innovations that take tradition and scale it to the next level exist in the first place. Knowing that these innovations are there and they have been successful, is enough, I think, to know that they're ready to scale and ready to be trusted at larger levels, because doing something is always better than doing nothing, especially, again, in the context of the climate crisis. Doing something, even if it's little, can have a great impact in the lives of real people, tangible impact in the life of millions of people. Innovation not only can be something physical, something like a product, something tangible, can also be seen in policy, in reform, in new ways and new ideas. And I wanted to close by saying that as a doubtful believer, I support innovation, having in mind the wise words of Nelson Mandela that once said that you never lose, you either win or learn. And that's why innovations are worth a little try. Thanks.
Sophia, thank you so much. And I think there's some wise words in there around learning from indigenous communities. So all that knowledge, so all this clever people in the room, we've got all that knowledge that spans back, and we need to reach back and get that and bring that into the thinking and make sure those communities are heard and part of the conversation. So I thought that amazing points that you made there. So I'm now going to invite team against. So who's next from the team? Right, lovely. Come and join us then. Oh, you all sit there. Okay, that's an innovation. So sitting down. Thanks, Shaman. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So about the statement, it's like we have all the innovation and technologies, so it's time to just go forward. But I think this statement is, it more simplifies the scenario, but actual scenario is not like that. My previous speaker, he mentioned about some data or something like that, but I will share some of the live event or life experience. I'm from Bangladesh, and the people living in the coastal region, they have a lot of water crisis. It's like not only the water scarcity, it's even the salinity as well. So while we have this kind of problem there in Bangladesh, the young people or the women, girls, they have to work for at least 2 hours or 3 hours just to collect the water from the pond. So if we actually have a lot of innovations and technologies, then why the people are being suffered there? And another important thing is, maybe, of course, not maybe, it's of course that there are a lot of innovations already happened, and it depends, this kind of technologies is very much available in the developing countries. Like, say, for an example, if you talk about water crisis is there, not only in Bangladesh, water crisis is in Australia, it's also in Netherlands, but they have solutions. But their solution cannot be implemented in our region. So I really believe that this kind of, problem, while we have problem, though it's very similar, but the solution is not the similar. The solution what the people are using from the Netherlands, that similar solution cannot be used in Bangladesh, not in Afghanistan, not in Pakistan or India. So the context, though the context is similar, but the solution should be different according to the geographical location. And I really think that though, and another important thing is, though while we have a solution, if we just being stuck there, it will be not a very good choice, because day by day we have to think about what's next, what's the another solution, or how we can scale up this solution. So that's actually my strong recommendation, or I'm staying against this statement or the motion. Like we have some solution and technologies, but that's not enough, and that's not actually for the people from the global south. Sometimes this is not applicable for all the region people. So of course it's needed, but I think besides the scaling up the current programs or current existing solutions, we have to think about more solutions according to the region and geographical location. That's the important thing.
Yeah, no, thank you, Samin. That's really good. Thank you. So I think just kind of a couple of takeaways that I've taken away. We need to take some of those solutions that are there and regionalize them. So that requires a bit of work. So it's not one size fits all. So that's a really good point. And actually, part of the innovation is taking those solutions and taking them to scale. So there's more innovation required there. So so there's some really good key points there. So thank you for making the point against the provocation. So finally, we're going to come back to our final member of the panel for the team 4. So Maha, would you either like to cut your one? Okay, we'll back up here.
Thank you so much. Actually, my colleagues or my group already supported couple of higher level statements when it comes to innovation. I'm supposed to cover the local level. So talking about innovation at community level, it's been already over years, many innovation being created or developed. And as Shami just mentioned, like some examples, so we do have innovations. So it's not about having the innovations, it's like we need like to upscale it. So in terms of innovation, we have many examples. For example, from the MENA region, I would say water harvesting, it's been there for a long time. Like, for example, water management system in Aflaj in Oman, it's been there for a long time as well. But the issue is upscaling these examples. In Batra, Jordan, since 3,000-4,000 years, we have the best maybe water collecting system, water, let's say flood resistance or flood protection system, but we don't use that knowledge. So there is a local innovations, solutions, but we are stuck at upscaling these. Many other solutions, now farmers, they are changing seasons with modified agriculture planting seasons as well, just to, let's say, crop choices. A community over years, they've been, for example, building their houses in areas away from the floodplains. This is an innovation solutions, but we still have a gap between the local knowledge, the bottom-up, supposed to have a bottom-up, let's say, solutions. So we have to admit that there is innovation. We have a local knowledge, we have solutions, we have indigenous knowledge, but we need to upscale it. And upscaling, it's about the process of expanding the presence and the use of innovation to be as widespread as possible to maximize the impact. So when we are talking about scaling, we are talking about impact. So we need to reach the maybe a greater number of farmers. We need to maybe achieve a greater water saving. So this is the impact we need to. And to be able to reach that impact, we need the enabling environment. And some of my colleagues in both directions mentioned like governance, mentioned some policy support, capacity building. So innovation is not about a single innovation, it's a package of innovation. We have to look into as a bundle. So it's not like only creating a technology without having a policy to support it, without having the best solution for, or the best, governance system or capacity building, so on and so forth. So we need to look at more comprehensive. So why not to invest again and reinvent the wheel? We already have something to build. So instead of creating a new innovation, let's upscale the money in some areas. So scaling is about creating the preconditions for scaling effectively. And innovation should be bottom-up and demand-driven. And when we are talking about innovation, it should be co-design. It's not like a parachute way. So yes, we do have innovation. We invested for the last 50, 70, 100 years in many innovations, but it is stuck somewhere that we need just that push to understand the local context and how can we reach it in a better way. Thank you.
Some more wise words there, so thanks, Mahar. So thinking about, it's not just technology innovation, we need to think about innovation in governance and policy, so we need to bring that all together. But that reflection that, that our forefathers had that technology, it's already there, we just need to get on and use it. Those solutions are already there, we just need to scale them. So that brings us really to our final panelist, so welcome, who's going to be speaking against. So do you want to take it from up there? So if you would like to come to the platform, Florian, if you'd like to just introduce yourself as well, all the panelists have done so, and then you're speaking against the provocation.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Noemi Floria. I'm the founder and director of Lero Design Studio, and I'm also the developer of Cyclo, which is a compact water treatment system designed to retrofit into buildings. I'd like to start my position by just sort of asking the question, what is progress? How do we define and measure progress? Is it measured by economic growth? Is it measured by the number of users? Or is it measured by the level of impact? I think the reason why we have climate change, if you were going to try to boil it down to one single driver, it would be the way our economic system is structured to drive growth and to drive the infinite consumption of a finite level of resources. We continue developing these innovations and we continue trying to scale them and trying to sell them under this capitalist model that asks more and more people to buy into our solutions and to drive up our GDP without the consideration of where is that growth going. What is the end impact and the cumulative impact of continuing to acquire more resources to scale our innovations? I don't think the issue is that we don't have enough innovations or that we need to invest more in local innovations or that we need to create enabling ecosystems for startups. I think the core problem of why we keep running into these same solutions is because we're working under a model and a paradigm that's inherently oppressing and reciprocating and reinforcing the very challenges that climate change embodies. For example, just this morning I was at another event here at the Water Pavilion, and we had a conversation about desalination as an innovative technology that's helping with water scarcity in different regions of the world. And I posed the question, does desalination reinforce a linear resource economy, right? We're looking at harvesting seawater to increase access to clean drinking water and water for agriculture, but we don't have a strategy for replenishing the seawater that we harvest. And one of the rationales, I guess, around desalination today is that 97% of the earth is covered in seawater. So we have such a vast amount of seawater that it's not really reasonable to try to think about how we're going to replenish it because there's so much of it. But in a way, isn't that just sort of embodying the same exact mentality that was used for oil or for carbon emissions when we look at how vast our atmosphere is or how much oil was once in the ground? As long as we continue on this mentality of having to grow and to scale our innovations and scaling these new technologies without a real consideration of how those resources and that cumulative consumption of resources for innovation has on the planet, and how this is sort of reinforcing an economic model that we've already recognized is defective, I think that continuing to innovate will not necessarily get us out of the systems that we're in. It's time to think beyond just product or service innovation, and it's time to consider an innovation of the very system that we live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, well, that's some interesting points to end the first round. So effectively, what are we innovating for, really? So what a provocation there from Naomi. And are we innovating for the right things? So are our systems and values the right things? So maybe we need to relook at those and then think about innovation. So great thoughts. I thought some great points made by both teams. The next part, I'm going to invite Team 4 and Team Against to start thinking about some of the things you've heard. Remembering you are the Team 4 and Team Against, quite difficult sometimes. I think there's some interesting points that have been raised, and there are some similarities, but there are some differences between the two teams. So who wants to kick off with a point? Would you like, and if it's addressed to either the team or individual, or even you could address it to the audience if you feel.
So it's for everyone actually, because now considering achieving the SDGs or NDCs, so we are like 7 years from now, we need to achieve something or at least to do a progress. I want just to, like the time and money that's going to be invested in a new innovation, it's going to be a lot because an innovation go through like a longer process. To take it from the lab to the farm or from local level to a national level. So it go through like a longer process from initiating idea to development, implementation, evaluation, adoption, upscaling, expand, and sustain. So this is a longer process. So I don't say that we don't need any new innovation because we are experiencing a new challenge, but we can go parallelly. We have to admit that we have innovations that still need to be upscaled, considering the local context, the need, and we can still as well like some of our investment should go into that and still parallelly invest in a new innovation, because 7 years it's almost needed for actions. It's not just like a new innovation, which is still agree with, but we do have innovations that still need to be considered.
Brilliant, thank you. So in the interest of fairness, then, you can either respond to that question or come back on another point. So please, Samin.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the people from the global south and people from the global north are not in the same boat. People who in Bangladesh or the South Asian countries, they have problems, but the solutions what the other countries they are providing. Maybe in Bangladesh we don't have that resource to implement that project. So according to this today's statement, it's like we have all the innovation. I think this word all, I think it's not perfect, and it simplifies the scenario more easily. Like we don't have all the innovations, of course. I think that's why my statement is the against party, that we don't have all the innovations and solutions. Of course, what my previous fellow mentioned, we of course need some scale up, but it doesn't. But of course, we need more solutions for people according to their region and nationality as well.
No, thank you for that point. Would anybody from Team 4 like to come back on that or any other point? Yes, Manuel.
Thank you so much. So I first would like to take up the notion of the different contexts require different solutions, and I think it's totally true, but I don't think this necessarily goes against the notion that we don't have enough solutions to tackle these problems, because like my speaker here with me mentioned, that we have a wide array of traditional solutions already in place that maybe just need to be taken at a bigger level to show how they really function and also be applied in similar contexts maybe. So while different contexts require these different solutions, I don't think that necessarily implies that these solutions don't exist. In the same sense, I think there was a mention about the paradigm, which I also agree with, but then I think it's critical saying that scaling up would just reinforce the paradigm. I think also saying we don't have enough innovations, we need more and more innovations, in the same way reinforces this system of that we just need growth and more economic productivity. And lastly, I want to address that it was mentioned that we're very behind on the SDGs, and I sadly have to agree with that. I don't think anyone can argue against that here. But I think the fact that nothing has happened is not a justification to keep doing nothing. And I think also the fact that the private sector is not jumping on some innovations that happen is not a clear indicator that we don't have enough indications, because, for example, to go to Mariana Mazzucato of the Global Commission of the Economics of Water, I think shows that a lot of the investment and carrying, particularly when it becomes to more risky investments where the private sector often shies away from, comes from the public sector, and I think that again shows that we really need to commit to the existing innovations and show that we need to scale them up and really need to tackle the action now.
Thank you for that point. I will be coming to the audience in a minute, but I quite like this riffing here that's going on, this point, counterpoint. Is there anybody else we've got a couple of hands, would you like to? So I think Nate, you caught my eye first, so go with a point, either to the panel or to an individual or to the audience.
Great. Well, I mean, at first, I think it's worth noting that I'm not anti-innovation. I'm simply tackling the point that Shamim made here, that it's all of the innovation. We're asking about this very specific question. All of the innovations needed to tackle the SDGs and NDCs. That's clearly not there. We don't have all of the innovations. We certainly need more innovation. If anybody's going to do it, it's going to be the youth, who can really break out and think outside the box, for sure, and indigenous people, as has been mentioned. We also have to recognize that we're on a planet with 8.1 billion people, right? That's never, we've got no experience dealing with this hyper-connected climate change planet that we're dealing with. So that requires new innovation. It requires new ways of thinking. And to get those to scale is going to have to throw away some of the playbook. we need business unusual. We need we need ideas that haven't been done before. And so I think we really need to push that and really tackle this question, all the innovations, then we just, I think we can just go home because we're done. They just need to get to scale. But we clearly know that's not the case.
Thanks, Nate. I'm going to come quickly. What we'll do is I'll allow some further points, but I'm just wondering, anybody from the audience got a point? Sir, we've only got one mic, so we're going to use it wisely. So name and affiliation, please.
Thank you. My name is Mohammed Alatoum. I'm working as a casual consultant, mostly for UNDP. I voted for two main reasons. One is because my former boss sits in the panel on the side of for. That's bias one. But the second one is really, if you read what the motion says, it says we have all innovation and technology we need for the SDGs, and we need to take them up to the scale. If you think for a moment of what the motion doesn't say, it doesn't say that we need to stop innovation. It doesn't say that we are good enough in achieving SDGs. I believe if had it said any of those, the panel on my left would have disagreed as well. So it is fundamentally about shifting the focus from testing things into taking them to scale. Another point to think about here is we in this motion. The very first word in this motion is we. Who is we in this? Because some of those innovations that we have already in place are limited to certain communities and countries, and not necessarily across the board for all countries and communities. So that's, again, tells us that the focus should be on the scaling out, scaling up, in all directions scaling. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Good point. So we're probably going to get you to join Team 4 in a bit, I think it looks like. But anybody else from the audience? So, name and affiliation, and if you agree or disagree.
Thank you so much. I'm Veysel. I'm a PhD researcher from UK. I'm also a consultant for a company. I'm totally against for the motion. The main reason is that if you have everything, why we do keep researching and finding new methods, right? And the second supporting material is that, for example, in my research, we realized that current design for hydropower plants, traditional methods, when you find alternatives with traditional methods, the design is not robust to climate change. And we realized that this methodologies need to be changed. And we just proposed a new way to design it. So if we have everything over there, why we do this? Thank you.
Good. So two really good points from the audience. I just wonder whether anybody on the panel would like to. Sophia, thank you. Are you going to address a point or make a point? Would you like to address either of those or just make a point?
I wanted to address a couple
Okay,
things.
perfect.
First, it was said that if innovations are already here, then why are people in the world still suffering? And I think that that is not necessarily a question that should be directed to innovations, but to the people who have the resources and have decided not to act before so that the innovations could have a greater impact. So the people that believed in the past that there were no innovations that could possibly be capable enough to tackle these challenges. And that's a mistake that we don't want to repeat, right? So that's why we're trusting that there are innovations that can be scaled. Also, I think that regarding to what was said from the audience, we can have the innovations right now, and we're still researching, I think, because innovations can still grow. They can still upscale. They can better the technologies that they use and the science and create new methods to contribute to those who already exist. And, well, to not make this too long, I think that the question should not just stay at the premise that we have had of if the innovations are there, because the world where we live in was said is 8 billion people with more and more generations coming. So it's very, very hard to believe that there are no people that have thought about solving some of the most pressing issues in the world, especially when there are so many people in so many communities that are experiencing these effects in the firsthand. But how do we find them? And we still have time to find them, because if their innovations are already there, they can still grow thanks to the research, but they need to be found by the accelerators, by the funds, by the government. And that would definitely help us just realize that the innovations are there, and that the fight to have a sustainable future that belongs to everyone and to meet the Sustainable Development Goals is possible. So maybe rethinking that it will be useful. Thanks.
Thank you, Sophia. Anybody else on the panel? So in the interest of, I'm going to go to the other side, if I may, and then come back to you, man. So you should pass the... So Naomi, would you like to give another killer blow, I think?
Sure. So I think, again, we're talking about scaling, and we're talking about, the equitable distribution of these resources between the global north and the global south. And I think we're forgetting that this has already been attempted, right? Globalization, and neoliberal globalization specifically, has been a major economic movement since the 1980s that aimed exactly to redistribute economic and physical resources from high-income to low-income countries under the premise that if we can scale technologies and if we can break down the barriers to trade and enable free trade, everybody can equitably enjoy the same standard of living. And what happened? Obesity increased, resource consumption increased, waste began to propagate and collect because waste began to be exported from high-income to low-income countries. A lot of countries fell into bilateral trade agreements that left their countries in debt to the very high-income countries that presented these trade agreements as potentially restorative of these inequitable trade dynamics that have been present since colonialism. So when we talk about scaling and we talk about redistributing resources, we keep assuming that business trade is the way to do that, and that, as we're developing these localized innovations, the best way to create wealth across communities is to scale them and is to take them on these global trade patterns. But we're forgetting that globalization has already shown us that this in many ways has failed, and that localized economies are a better alternative than a scaled neoliberal economy.
Thank you. Maha, you had your hand up. Would you like to make a point?
I forget your name, but there is Faisal. So first, you admit that we have some innovations been over years, and when these innovations been invented or created, it was not the shape that we have now. For example, metros has been changing the size, the fuel, etc., considering a new, let's say, dynamics, new external, internal factors. And this is how it is actually. Like, that's why we need research. Research definitely needed all the way, because without research we can't develop things, or we can't get it in more efficiently, let's say, utilized. So research is definitely something like to support the innovation creation. But like, for example, now when we are talking about research, where is most research is done? I would say like in the upper north of the world, not the south. You can check the number of publications, journals, so less being invested in research when it comes to the southern part of the world. I would just give some examples, like governments, they don't consider much of their budget to support research. Even universities, it's less. That's why, however, like a global south, there is many innovations being created over years by locals. What is still needed is, like, we are not doing enough to upscale or to take these local solutions for a better scale. So water harvesting, responding to, like here in UAE, like 50 years ago, it was just a desert. But now you drink a fresh water, you travel in the middle of the heat very smoothly. So this is because of innovation. But there is like an enabling environment created that. So sometimes you feel that you are here living in a bubble out of the Middle East, where other, let's say, cities, countries, they are suffering. So we need to consider as well like the economic situation for these countries and the governance. Governance, corruption, this is very important when we are talking about innovation, development, social, economic, like these should be considered as well. So sometimes the great minds, youth, we are counting a lot on youth, but there is a lot of like, let's say, bottleneck to encourage them. So this is it's a weak problem, to be honest. So, but we have to admit that there is a local knowledge. We are not doing enough what we needed, but there is like a lot of things still can be done when it comes to innovation. If I want to make it particularly for this part of the world. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. So I'm just going to offer that back out to the audience. If there's any further questions in the audience, I'm going to keep the panel going because it's really interesting. Any more? So we've heard that there's no need for research. So, got a question in the front there, please. Name and affiliation.
It's not question, so I am just trying to make my point for being against this statement, which is, it is just not about having the innovations and technology. I think it's about meeting the SDG goals of UN, and which is relating to water. For example, if I give an example, like, we are talking about plastic pollution. We always talk about plastic pollution. Do we have the alternative of plastic? Even though we have it, why we are not scaling it? So because of plastic, the life below water is, under at stake. So do we really have the innovations to meet the UN SDG goals and protect the life underwater? So that's my question.
Great, that's a really good question. Thank you. So who would like to take that question, either for or against? Anybody would like to take that question? Allow me. Thank you. Anybody like to talk to that question?
If I would just respond to the plastic matter, like there is definitely different type of now materials being created, developed, but are all countries affording these prices? Like, for example, there is degradable material that can be used, and it can be degraded in landfill in a few time. But not every country they have this, let's say, material, and none can. Maybe a couple of countries, but not everyone can afford the prices, the cost, because we have to look into it as a value chain. It's not just like having the product. It's even creating that product, like the material to be tested, to be so it's a lot of time, and we need to consider the affordability for countries and the consumer by the end of the day. And this is related as well to the recycling program. So like in some countries here in the Middle East, still we don't have like segregation when it comes to waste. So all waste is going to the dump site, where a lot of pollution is going through the whole cycle. So that need to be considered as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Nate, please.
So I think the plastic is an interesting example, and I think it goes to what Noemi was saying as well, and what you were saying. So I agree with that. I mean, I think you've got a system that doesn't price in its impact on the environment. And because of that, plastic will always be cheaper than the current set of innovations. So we don't have an innovation yet that is cheaper than plastic the way it's currently priced in our capitalist economic system, that system. So that there then speaks to the fact that not only do we not have the innovations that we need yet, but we also don't have a system in place that would allow current innovations to get to scale. And a part of this, taking them to scale is kind of like a throwaway thing, because that's actually the hardest part. We can't get, the innovations to scale within this current system as they currently are. So we need some new innovations that can actually break through, and we need new governance and a lot of new things to enable these innovations to get to scale.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. I'm going to give one more point really to the in this format. Oh, please, Naomi.
To add on to what Nate just mentioned, arguably there actually is an alternative to plastic that exists, and that is more economical than plastic, and it's zero waste. It's the absence of plastic. And for thousands of years, we lived and we used in markets that didn't use any plastic, right? Things were traded, produce was traded openly. beans and spices were traded in open baskets, plastic packaging wasn't necessary. And while, granted, the infrastructure that we use today does necessitate packaging to a degree, zero waste is a solution that could be widely adopted, that doesn't need any one single business or company to scale. But the challenge is that zero waste is difficult to profit off of, right? Because of that very model where it's the absence of having something to profit off of. It's the absence of having a packaging product or a materiality to sell. In my line of work, I see a lot of material innovations. I see a lot of young startups presenting the next new bioplastic or the next new biodegradable packaging material, and they all fail for the exact same reason, which is that they're not economical relative to plastic. And that's because the economic model that we live under and that we operate according to doesn't champion zero waste as a solution, because there's nobody who can solely profit off of that.
Thank you for that point. So again, I think that speaks to the points that you've made earlier, and I think the against team have been saying actually fundamentally we need to understand what we're valuing in that sort of value chain to innovate. So interesting points there. I'm just going to give the team 4 just would you like to reflect at all on any of those? No, because we'll go into the next part where what I'd like to do is get the two teams to confer, come up with your sort of summary to support your position, nominate a speaker, and I'll give you probably 3 minutes or so for each side just to sum up your position and maybe score some points off the other side and anything you might have heard in the audience. So a minute or so just to think about that. Don't go anywhere. We're going to hear the sort of final remarks from both sides.
Young and smart, old and
I need some more questions. Great questions, guys. Don't forget to nominate a speaker. For those just joining us and online, just a reminder of the provocation that our panel will be speaking to or just finishing up. It's on the screen there, but we have all the innovation and technology we need to meet the UN SDGs and NDCs relating to water. We just need to take them to scale. So we're going to hear final remarks from the for and against debating team, and then you'll get a chance to vote again in the audience. So there's a lot of debate going on within Team 4. I think Team Against look quite relaxed. I think they're very relaxed.
at the end if I'm missing.
They think it's in the bag. We don't know. They don't know. I'm going to remind everybody of the scores as we went in as well in a moment or two. So at the beginning of the debate, or before the debate, Team 4 scored twice as many votes from the audience as Team Against. So we're gonna look to see if that's changed at all. But your final remarks, I'm going to invite Team 4, the provocation, to go first. So if you've nominated somebody to speak on your behalf, you have three or 4 minutes if you'd like.
Sure.
Manuel.
Yeah, so we've discussed, and I think there's also a bit of maybe a few ways to read that question, and I think it's not saying we never need to innovate any further. All innovation is bad now. We have done everything. We've achieved everything. I don't think that is what this question is essentially addressing. It's just meaning that we have the innovations at hand that are needed to reach the NDCs and the SDGs, that they are there. We just need to sort of tackle them, and not that it's not needed to innovate anymore, or that research can go out of the window now. And I think it is also unfair to use these, not unfair. I think it's sort of using the vested interest and the neoliberal system that was mentioned is a good point, because I think scaling up innovations, I think, also means making innovations available to other partners to see how they could thrive in different environments. And I think patents or the neoliberal system we have seen so far has also prevented active sharing of solutions or sharing of patents. For example, I think with COVID, we have really seen how terrible vaccine patents were really when it comes to addressing or providing an actual solution. So I think we have solutions, we just need to really commit to them, and also commit to them in a fairer way.
Thank you, Team 4, and Manuel for taking the rostrum there. So, Team Against, please. Final summing up. So, I think there was a little bit of generosity there about innovation. It's still required. There was certainly some finesse, I think, of the actual provocation, which I thought was excellent. So, thank you, picking out exactly what that meant. So, I think over to you, Team Against. And Nate, will you be doing the honors?
So, but I'm going to also pass back to my team if I miss anything. So, I mean, just again, picking up on the provocation to start with. So, the SDGs, and I'll stick with those because the NDCs are quite specific, they're huge goals. And what we're saying is that we have all the answers to them. That's what the provocation is stating. We have all the answers to solve those. We just need to get them to scale. And I think that's an arrogant statement. I think it's too strong. I think what we're really saying here on this team is that innovation is wonderful. We want to support it. We want to support the youth. We want to support indigenous people for innovation. But it has to be very context specific. And our current system is also really preventing it from getting it to scale. And we need new ways to actually think about innovation. We need new types of innovation if we're going to get to scale. And we also need to change the system that enables that innovation.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Do any of your colleagues want to come in on that at all? That was a good final piece. So you've heard for both Team 4 and Team Against. What I'd like to do is just take a view. So provocation is up on the screen. I'll read it one last time. We have all the innovations and technology we need to meet the UN SDGs and NDCs. So that's nationally determined contributions related to water. We just need to take them to scale. So can I have those who agree with the provocation to put your hands up really high with this scientific polling? You guys don't get to vote. Okay, that's interesting. So there's a change. There could be a change of state here. And could I check for those who disagree with the provocation? Really, really high, please. There's sort of, yeah, there's one. Right, this has definitely changed the scale. For those who are not in the room, there was 4 times as many against. So just as a reminder, there was twice as many for at the beginning of the provocation. So whatever happened there, it was either a change of people in the room or you did some great debating. So can I just, again, thank our panelists one more time. Thank you. Can I thank you in the audience for your participation? Thank you very much. I'm looking to anybody online and whether there was anybody with thumbs up, thumbs down. We'll take a view on that shortly. But if you've followed the debate, thank you very much. Please put your points in the chat. We will come to them. And can I just reflect what an amazing panel we had? You know, we've got a diverse selection of experts here from around the world, and we've got the youth. Yeah, some less youthful, but absolutely. And I think the point that I heard earlier was actually the solutions are in the hands of the youth. And I thought that was one of the most important statements that I heard. And it was an excellent debate, I felt, a really engaging debate. But I think that actually, not to hand on, but I do think that the ideas will be coming, new ideas will be coming from the youth. So thank you so much for participating in the debate. I just want to, just as a sort of check, can I now ask on a personal level, but this is not for scoring, but did you agree with the provocation or disagree? So remembering that everybody took a position they were asked to take, so can I just ask the panel, where would you have been if you were sitting in the audience, where would you be? Do you agree? Put your hand up high. Yeah, that's a sort of maybe, yeah. And then if you disagree, hand up high. The higher, the more that you disagree. Some people are abstaining. Okay, there's a small. So I think that's certainly meets or reflects the audience's view. So thank you one last time, and thank you to the youth who have got a lot of work to do. I think it sounds like, but some excellent points made, and thank you for the humour, but also the respect that you showed both teams. So thank you. Oh, we need a photograph. Otherwise, it never happened. Thank you. Okay, I'll get away from that thing. I don't have any legs. Do you know what? Can I just stand in the middle so I can separate the team? Yes. I've got a, look, this is it, isn't it? This is how it really works. I'm keeping them apart. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. You guys were amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, always a pleasure. Yeah, thank you. Great.